The 18 Strong Podcast with Jeff Pellizzaro, episode number 3.
Welcome to the 18 Strong Podcast, where you get direct access to the world's greatest experts on training harder, practicing smarter, and playing better golf. Now, here's your host, Jeff Pellizzaro.
Hey, what's up, everybody? First of all, I want to thank you guys for tuning into the 3rd episode of the 18 Strong Podcast. It's been great so far. We've had some fantastic guests that I've had the opportunity to interview that will be coming up soon. And today's guest is Mr. David Donatucci, who has probably one of the longest running careers in golf fitness and gives us some great insight as to what the industry used to be like, where he came from, his experiences, to the point that he's at now, working with some of the greatest players really on the PGA Tour, the LPGA, European Tour, some web.com, all kinds of people that are coming to his place to get the best of the best in the training world. And he's going to share with you some of the things that they're doing in their programs and the different things and how they're unique to each individual. But he also goes into, and we discuss a lot, the biggest mistakes that you guys are making. And when I say you guys, I mean all golfers are making in their fitness programs, and how you can change it, and certain things that you can do to make your program better and more suited to improving your game. And then, like I said, he gives you a glimpse into what the pros are doing, and also gives you suggestions as to whether that stuff is right for you and what you could be doing versus what they're doing and how it differentiates. So hope you guys enjoy this interview, and I will catch you on the other side. All right, everybody, welcome to the 18 Strong Podcast. I'm really excited to introduce my next guest. You've probably seen him. He's been on pretty much every golf show and every golf publication out there, the Golf Channel, the Morning Drive, Golf Central, Golf Academy. He's been in Golf Digest and Golf Magazine. His name is David Donatucci, and he was the Director of Fitness and Performance with the PGA of America, where he actually designed and operated the first fitness facility at the PGA Center for Golf Learning and Performance. And most recently, David has relocated to the PGA National Resort, where he's the director of the Florida Institute of Performance. So, David, first of all, welcome to the show. I really appreciate you taking the time to get on the line with us and kind of share your experiences with the 18 Strong listeners. But we want to get to know you a little bit more on a personal level as well as on a professional level. So take a few minutes, tell us who you are, what you do, and then get a little bit more into details about the Florida Institute of Performance and the people you work with. And as I mentioned before the show, go ahead and feel free to name drop, because I know our listeners love hearing the people that you guys work with.
Well, thanks, Jeff. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. And I guess hearing all that stuff, I didn't realize that I did all those things, but it's kind of good to hear all those again. But I guess it goes back to a few years of every time I go through this and kind of give my bio, I realize how old I am every day. So I try to keep it shorter and shorter as we go through it so I can get younger and younger, but it hasn't happened yet. But I started off really in my career in Cleveland, Ohio with the Cleveland Clinic Foundation, and was a chance to kind of operate and work. And what at the time, so we're talking about early 90s, what they were classifying as sports medicine facilities, which are truly nowhere near as to what I would classify as a sports medicine facility of today. And had the opportunity to work kind of directly with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Did a lot of work with the Cleveland Browns in terms of physiological testing parameters. Worked a lot of Olympic figure skating, and had the opportunity to work with the first male who landed a quadruple jump in competition, which his name was Timothy Gable. Actually took bronze medal at the Olympics in Utah. And then from there moved to IMG Academies in 1999. Where I had the opportunity basically to become the director of the International Performance Institute, and really kind of, I guess, jump-started my career to be able to work with a number of professional athletes coming through, getting ready for the NFL Combine, a number of baseball players that were getting ready for spring training. We had a number of high school sports. At the time I started, we had 5. Turned out to be, baseball, basketball, golf, soccer, tennis. And then they've added a number of them since I've left there. But really been able to work with a number of talented players, helped worked with Paula Creamer when she was a young high school kid. Peter Uline, who I still work with today, I started with him. He's been 10 years kind of working with me, which has been kind of fun seeing the maturation of any young player. To kind of go through that from 13 years all over to 23. It's kind of interesting experience to kind of see that really take shape. And then from there, I was kind of figuring out what my next steps were going to be, next challenges, I guess, and took the challenge of the PGA of America to become their director of fitness, which involved a few different things, one of which was education, which I love from a teaching perspective. And the PGA of America does a great job in terms of trying to mentor or young golf professionals, or even, I guess, older golf professionals in their second career to go through and become teaching professionals of today. And one of the things they were lacking in their minds was more of a fitness component to their education materials. So I had the opportunity to kind of rewrite the materials for their 3 levels of education, which we put in kind of level 1 from an introductory standpoint of more of the value. I call it more of the observation, kind of looking at the athlete or looking at the individual that they have and trying to determine, what may happen during their swing based on rounded shoulders, bad posture, basic things we see every day with the average player, to how do you fix that, to the third stage, which was more the elite player, to, okay, let's evaluate them and go through a few things that may help them out. And then, really had the opportunity to start to mainstream some of the activities, the health awareness components into golf. Started talking more about the health aspects of the game and how it would relate, and how walking a golf course could be equal to 7 miles of exercise, and number of calories you burn, and really trying to take a different approach into trying to get people outside and doing activities every day. And then really looked for my last stage, hopefully it's my last step, which was kind of opening my own business. I realized that the things that I really want to do, which was coach athletes and help individuals excel, was challenging in my current position with the PGA of America. So I opened up the Florida Institute of Performance, which is, as I look back and kind of opened it up, I look back through all my old notes, and I would keep kind of jot things down on a daily basis of things that I really want to do and things, my goals and my aspirations. And I probably had 4 or 5 of these notebooks kind of hidden in a bookshelf, and all of them I opened up said the same thing: open your own business, open your own business. So it was about time, and it's been great for me. I'm right now renting space at the PGA National down in West Palm Beach, and have the benefits of a lot of players in the area. I mentioned kind of Peter Uline has come back to kind of work with me. I have the opportunity to be closer to Stacey Lewis and help her out, and it's been kind of a fun 4-year run with her. Michelle, we actually came in the doors about 6 months ago to start working out. I got Brooks Koepka, who's kind of come down going through some things. A bunch of web.com guys, and Derek Fathauer and Steve LeBron and Daniel Berger. Got another kid kind of PGA Tour, Scott Langley and Kevin Foley. I got probably 8 LPGA players that have come through here, and Belinda Motha and a girl named Jenny Sue and Hannah June. So it's really been a great testament to a lot of the people that have come through the facility and have basically spread the word for me and saved me on my marketing budget, and really talking about the things that they've been kind of benefiting of. And in my mind, it's really kind of taking the player and making them an athlete, to allow them to do the things that they really want to do. And actually, I'm in the process now of trying to get a bigger facility. So it's been great, and I'm kind of enjoying the ride right now, and a little scared, but I'm still enjoying the ride.
Wow! Congratulations!
Thanks.
I know it's been a big ordeal and going through a lot of stuff and working tons of hours and putting the whole thing together. I know a client of yours who was a client of mine when he was here in St. Louis, and he was kind of keeping me up to date on some of the progress that you guys were having down there, and so I know how big of a project this was as you put together. And I kind of went through the same thing not too long ago, putting together a performance center here in St. Louis, and so congratulations. That's quite a list of characters that you have down there. and a lot of success going through those doors these days. The Michelle Wees and Stacey Lewis and Scott Langley, a St. Louis guy coming from here. So I haven't had the pleasure of meeting Scott personally, but always kind of follow the St. Louis guys and what they're doing. So congrats on all of that.
Thanks.
With your background, you were in a lot of different sports and had a lot of different opportunities. Is there something that drew you specifically towards golf, or was it more that was just kind of the opportunity that came up? Or give us a little insight there.
It started kind of in the Cleveland era where I had the opportunity to work with an IMG sports agent who was probably the number one golf agent, a guy named Hughes Norton. And he, at 20, I think I was 26 or 27 years old, he kind of gave me my first real set of golf clubs. And we just kind of talked back and forth. And at the time, he was representing Greg Norman. And Greg Norman was probably the number one fitness freak on tour, where he would, vertical climber probably 45 minutes hard all out every day. And go through a lot of different types of activities for himself. And we just kind of talked about different things in terms of what's going on in the tour. And, he introduced me to a lot of local teaching professionals in the area. And we just kind of discussed different areas. And I just kind of took a liking to that arena because there was nothing there at the time. And we're talking, 1996, 97. Again, that's why I'm kind of aging myself here pretty good. So I'm kind of going through a lot of different types of things. But and then when I went to IMG Academies, I kind of went down there saying, hey, let me take over the golf academy. And they were like, please do, because nobody really wanted it. Nobody, it was a struggle to kind of go through a lot of that. And then as I was kind of working there and as the director, I kind of, I like playing. I like going out hitting balls. I talked to a lot of the golf instructors. We talked a lot about fitness. We talked a lot about different things and exchanged ideas. And I did some video lessons with myself and just kind of talked to them or watched them do little lessons, and just really kind of gravitated more towards that arena. And then really probably 2003, 2004, where, Peter Uihlein walked in the doors and his dad said, hey, my friend Hughes Norton says I should see you and you should take care of my son. So it was kind of one of those things where everything kind of fell, the stars were aligned, and everything kind of fell in place. The opportunity to work with, again at the time, a 13-year-old who was very talented at the time, and had nothing but a bright future ahead of him, was kind of the change in my career. And with the connections with both Hughes and with Wally Uihlein, I got to meet a lot of great people along that route. And to see a lot of different types of things that I probably would not have experienced in still staying in Cleveland or in any other arena. And that's really kind of where it kind of fell into place. And again, it's, you can say it's, I always say it's the opportunities that people give you that you need to take advantage of, that kind of change your life and make it the way you want it to be. Absolutely.
Now, being somebody that was kind of there on the forefront and has seen basically the rise of fitness in the golf world, how would you say that has changed the game over the past 10, 15, 20 years?
Yeah, I still see this as golf is probably where baseball was 10 years ago. In the baseball world, there were really not many strength coaches in the game 10, 15 years ago. And just till today, they're kind of even changing some of the way that baseball strength coaches are and making sure they're all certified and everything else. So they've been kind of evolving on that. It's been an interesting look at some things, and to me, it's still the best way for golf performance is the physiology is the body, the technical, which is going to be the swing coaches, and then the equipment. You kind of look at those three parameters to help improve the game. Prior to that, it's most of the time people think about one thing. Oh, if I buy this $500 driver, that's going to help me out. You still have that from some people, but there's still now a thought of how the physical is starting to creep into some things. The Titleist Performance Institute has helped a lot with kind of opening some eyes, both by having some things on the Golf Channel and by their certification program. I kind of caution a lot of that because sometimes you almost dilute the field a little bit by having everybody certified. In terms of there's too many cooks in the kitchen to kind of understand really what the parameters and what the true development of the player needs to be, and that's where I kind of hold my ground on a couple of things to say, is this right? Is this the way it really should be progressing? I also look at it and say that in the golf world, because there's no quote team environment, a lot of the players are left to find their own guys or their own coaches, and from the conditioning standpoint on their own. And sometimes what they're gravitating towards may not be the best that's out there. And I've seen a lot of interesting things that are out there, out on tour, when I've kind of gone to a couple of events with some of the players like Scott Langley and a Peter Uihlein and a Kevin Foley and Brooks, and can just kind of try to work with some players and see the background of what's going on out there. Sometimes it's not always the best for the players that are there, and I think that's kind of where we are right now, is kind of muddling through, figuring out what's the best approach for players, and that's something for me that I'm always looking at. What's the best thing to do for all the players from the training environment, from the training approach, because there really is no off season for these guys. They basically go almost 11 months a year from a lot of their tournament perspectives. Now they're not playing 52 tournaments a year, but they're in the 25 to 30, and there's a lot of travel that's involved in there that they really don't have time to kind of break some things off. So I'm not sure if I really answered the whole question there, but I think it's changing for a little bit of the better, but I think we need to kind of caution ourselves in terms of what's out there that we are looking at to find the best methodologies of working with these golf athletes.
No, you absolutely answered the question. Actually, you answered my follow-up question too, which was going to be, what are some of the drawbacks of this big rise and having so much exposure, like you said, being on the Golf Channel, and there's so many different fitness professionals that are starting to get into quote unquote golf specific fitness or golf fitness, and so I think you answered that very eloquently. The fact that we need to be careful, who we're seeking out, and a lot of these guys on the mini tours, or the kids in college, they have to seek out their own professionals, and that's kind of the idea of what I wanted to do with this podcast and with the website is, highlight some of the guys and girls that are out there doing it, at the highest of level, and give some people some more information as far as, what are some of the right ways to do it? How can we learn how to do it better, and where can we move from there? So, no, I think that was great.
Yeah, one of the things too, Jeff, I want to kind of add up. Is I look at, some of the problems you get into with, I look at college athletes and college players, and it's not just golf, but I think it's all around. Is, there's always a big criticism of, they're training them like a football player. I think it's really looking at, I always say the purpose of the program. What's the purpose of the exercise? Why are you doing the exercise? Is it good for that athlete? Whatever sport that you're looking at, at any level, whether it's high school, college, or professional, is this a benefit or a detriment to that player based on their own individual physical evaluation?
Absolutely. Every person has their own specific needs, flexibility, strength, whatever it might be, and that's why I believe it's so important that we do the assessments and we look and find those things first before going into the strengthening programs. Now, a lot of our listeners are not necessarily, college players, mini tour players, possible professional players, but a lot of them are your weekend golfers, maybe some very good amateur golfers playing for the club championship. What would you say are one or two of the biggest mistakes that you see these type of golfers doing in their golf fitness program? Maybe they don't have a fitness professional they're working with, or unfortunately, maybe they do have a fitness professional that they're working with.
I would. I think you said it, is there's no evaluation for them. They don't have a plan. They don't have a progression. They see something on TV and think, I'm going to try that. I think that's good for the golf game. Or I'm going to take this cable and try and pull it down because I need to work on my, downward action in the golf swing. To me, the swing is more of a reaction as opposed to a resistant pull, if you will. Meaning that, a simple thing of, everything that we do is to try and, emulate the golf swing, not imitate it or not replicate it. The best way, I always tell my players, the best way to improve your golf swing speed is to swing the golf club. I'm going to do a lot of things that are going to work with you physically, but we're not. The best way for you to repeat that golf motion is to swing the club. So the things that I always say that the big ones that I see mistakes are made are people don't work enough from the abdominal strengthening or stability component. They don't work enough on the scapular stability component, and they don't work enough on their glute stability. And that goes far beyond of saying, I'm just going to do squats or lunges to go through that. It's the old adage: if the butt's not firing, it's not going to fire. If we don't have good mobility within the hips, we don't have a way to really activate your glutes and going through your motion, you're not going to utilize them as stabilizers, and they're not going to perform while you're trying to swing that golf club. And therefore, your low back's probably going to take over, or your hip flexors or your quads are going to be the higher activity point in there. So I look at it mainly, I would say, number one mistake, there's no plan. There's no way of them looking at it and saying, this is what I need to do every day in order to help my golf game.
And then with the golfers in this category, how would you, because a lot of them, they look at the TV shows or they read the magazines and they say, okay, this is what Stacey Lewis is doing in her workout program. This is what Scott Langley's doing in his workout program. Is that what I should be doing? And, how do you, and again, I know that a lot of it's going to go back to the evaluation, but
Yep.
How do you differentiate, or what would be the differences between your average golfer's workout program and your professional golfer's workout program?
I would probably say volume, amount of weight lifted, and time spent in the gym. I would say the average golfer, and that's kind of, I think, comes back to a lot of this, is most people think they got to spend an hour and a half, 2 hours in the gym to get better. And I'm going to tell you, you can spend 15, 20 minutes in the gym, and you can get better if you do it, 4 or 5 times a week, and it's more of on a constant basis. You can do a lot of the things while you're on the golf course, while you're waiting for your buddy to hit. That's when you can get your majority of your activity done. A simple thing of, putting the club straight up above your head and leaning to the right and leaning to the left, and repeating that, 6 to 8 times before, while you're waiting for your buddy to tee, is going to help you with your torso rotation, because the lateral bending of the spine is going to help you improve your overall ability to rotate, because it gives you more mobility around that area. So that's going to help you out a little bit. You can work on those things of putting the club across your shoulders and trying to rotate while keeping your hips still while you're waiting for your buddy to hit, and getting that feeling of what is it like to rotate your torso effectively around the spine, or keeping the hips still. Most people have no idea what that feels like to kind of go through a lot of those types of things. So there's little things that they can do, which is really part of the Stacey Lewis, the Scott Langley, the Brooks Koepka, the Michelle Wie program, because they're going to do a main lift, if you will, but they're also going to come back to what I would classify as a corrective or somewhat of a resetting or an activating type of exercise, where we're going to focus mainly on their glutes. We're going to focus on low back mobility, where they might be getting into an all fours position, hands and knees, and you can call it an angry cat or whatever yoga term you want to call it, cats and dogs or dogs and cows or whatever they're calling it today. But I'm going to say keep your shoulders still and just work the middle portion of your back. So you're working, maybe it might be a 2-inch motion that you're kind of going through, where you feel your back, your pelvis tilting up and down, where your shoulders aren't moving. Most people do all that through their upper thoracic spine or the shoulder blade region, which gets all the mobility, and there's no movement in the hips. And that's a simple exercise that I have a web.com guy starting off right now. I have a long drive guy who's trying to do some long drive stuff, and he's doing that same exercise right now. So those little exercises that most of the people are doing, your pros are still doing those same types of things. I mean, it's interesting to me that I have Tim Rosefort comes in, a couple times a week or a couple times a month, and whenever he's in town, and he goes, what's interesting to me is I'm doing a lot of the same exercises that the tour players do and that Stacey Lewis doing. He goes, it makes me feel really good. And he's doing a lot that they're not doing because of the fact that he's just not able to progress to that level. So, Tim, who's 58 years old and, an ex-football player, he still has the same goal. Hey, I want to play golf better. He's doing a lot of those little things that people neglect on doing to help him improve his golf game.
Now, I know earlier you said that, because they play so often and so long throughout the year, there's not really a real off season for these guys and girls. But when they do have a little bit of time off, or how would you describe a little bit of periodization is for their training program? And for the listeners, periodization is basically, based on the different times of the season, what kind of different strength training you're doing. Would you say that you differentiate it throughout the year based on their schedule? And then just for the listeners, because I know that they love to get a glimpse as far as what they're really doing, what does a week look like when they're on tour, when they're actually playing in a tournament? What does that week of workouts look like?
I'm going to kind of break that down now. I mean, that varies per player. The week of tournament, and I'll kind of explain that in a second. For me, the periodization, I use it more from a standpoint of, I'll call it loading and unloading. I'd almost look at, for some of the players, the tournament week is an unloaded week, meaning that their volume of workout might be 50% as if they weren't playing. So in a normal week, and let's say it's a week, a player comes back, the first 2 days, I would classify those as lighter. We're going to do more hamstring work. We're going to do a lot of abdominal stability work. We're going to re-fire up the glutes, get a little more activation in there. We're going to kind of do a lot of med ball throws, some band explosion type of activities, and kind of fire on through there. And that's kind of like the first 2 days to almost get them back to normalcy, if you will, from the grind of mainly of travel. And then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday is a little heavier, more emphasis on power. We want to explode. The thing that, kind of getting back to another thing, a thing that's often neglected for most of the amateur players is they don't work enough on speed activities. So there's no real speed. They work on, slow, controlled lifts, but we want to work on that fast, high speed activity to allow them to explode and to move. I'll say move as fast as they can within control to kind of, again, emulate that swing feeling, that high rate of speed, that golf swing which lasts about less than a second to hit the ball as far as you can. And that's kind of where we would go through it. So we would kind of come through, and if they come back through another week, we're going to kind of load the strength up a little bit more because I know from the travels are a little bit down from the strength aspect. So I do a lot of more of single leg squatting motions as I do double leg motion. I'm going to try and do both double and single legs on the hamstrings as well, and I'm probably overloading hamstrings more than quads, or I'm probably overloading the pull on the lower body more than the push, because again, the emphasis on trying to keep more work, more load through the back of the hamstrings, and then so for me, it's I use the travel as more of their downloading week, because I know that if I'm not around, normal things are going to work, probably going to work out, but they're not going to work out as hard as if I'm standing over them watching them. So that's kind of almost you want to call it an undulating periodization type of model. That's kind of what I would look at from an overall monthly standpoint. And then I'll throw in within a month, if I know they're traveling, a less volume activity. So we might be doing 1 or 2 sets a day as opposed to the 3 or 4 sets while they're out on the road. And it might all be band work depending upon where they are. And if they're in a regular gym like an LA Fitness, we're going to tie up more of the Superflex bands and utilize them a lot more for the speed drills to kind of imitate the medicine ball work more so than actually not many places like people throwing a medicine ball against their walls. So we're going to kind of do that. And then kind of breaking down their tournament week. It's really Monday, Tuesday are the heavy days. So we really break it down to where they're doing 5. I started off, everything is always going to be an activation or a corrective. So they have 7 exercises, which kind of cover a lot of their needs. And then I go into right away is 7 exercises for mainly abdominals, low back. I don't like to use the term core because it always kind of people like, oh, you mean you're going to work hamstrings and hips during that time? No, I'm going to do abdominals, low back during that time. So really emphasize a lot of stability, a lot of motions through the abdominals, through the lower back to kind of get everything kind of warmed up and initiated and moving. And then I'm going to go through really 5 main lift exercises. So, on a Monday, it might be, some Romanian deadlifts. We might do a power exercise, such as might be a lateral bound motion. And then we'll kind of do maybe another hamstring work, or it's a physio ball leg curl, or a TRX if they have it, going through that leg curl. And then we're going to do a couple of rowing motions where it might be a machine row, maybe a front pull down type of thing. And every one of those exercises is followed up with another type of corrective motion. So on Monday they might do 3 sets of all that. On Tuesday they might do similar type motions. We might do a single leg squat instead of the Romanian, and kind of mix and match a couple of types of things. But we're doing full body every day. As they're going through that. And the Tuesday we might do 3 sets of the first 2, and then 2 sets of the following 3 exercises. Then Wednesday, it's all speed motions. We're going to do all kinds of band work. We're going to do all kinds of high speed exercises, probably 4 of them. Again, all interspersed with some more corrective type things. Thursday and Friday are similar, where we're going to mix and match probably 4 of the exercises are going to be speed motions, and then 1 or 2 are going to be maybe a hamstring and maybe a pulling motion kind of worked in there, and doing some things as well on Saturday, kind of fitting it in there. And it's all up to the player in terms of when they're going to do that. If they have an early morning tee time on Thursday, they're going to work out probably Thursday evening. If they have a late morning tee time on Friday, they'll probably work out early morning. And the same thing with kind of a Saturday and Sunday is kind of, a lot of them do some things on Sunday to kind of get some things warmed up, get some things acclimated, and kind of go through a lot of the things, especially a core routine or again, the corrective motion for themselves as well. So they're doing some things. Now, some players, that would be more typical of a Stacey Lewis program. She's going to work out 6 days a week. Other players, it's maybe 3 or 4 days a week during that tournament time. So they might work out Monday, Tuesday. They might skip Wednesday because it's a long day. It's a pro-am. They'll do something Thursday and or Friday, depending upon tee times, and also Saturday, again, depending upon tee times. So we may only get 4 days a week for some of the players in there to kind of go through some things. So it really varies on some of the players. Cindy Lacrosse, who's playing the LPGA, she likes 3 days a week, kind of working out. Peter, he's probably somewhere around 5. Brooks, he's probably around 2 or 3 days a week. Scotty Langley, he's probably 3 to 4 days a week, kind of from a workout standpoint. I got Steve LeBrun, I want the same thing every day, because he's more of a superstitious guy. He knows if he does a workout on Thursday and he plays super, he wants that same workout on Friday, because if he misses that up and if he plays bad on Friday, he's going to blame it on the workout. So it's one of those types of things, which is kind of some of the things that drives you nuts out there. But
right.
There's some guys that kind of follow that routine. It's like, I want the same thing over and over and over again, so I don't forget what I'm supposed to do. So there's wide ranges and wide varieties, but I think the best one for me was Stacey, when she said she played last year's British Open when she won. They had to play 36 holes in the last day. And she came into, basically it would have been the 35th and the 36th hole, and she was down by 1, and she went birdie. And that's kind of how she won the tournament. And I asked her kind of afterwards, I said, how'd you feel? She goes, I got to play another 18 holes, and just kind of going through that. And that was, a testament to how hard she works and how things that she does, that she really felt great. And I've, kind of gone against the tradition is I minimize cardio. I don't do a lot of cardio work. There's not, for Stacey, she might do a little bit, but I actually pulled her off treadmill work and sprint work because of the fact that it was affecting her foot. She was getting a little plantar fasciitis in there, and we couldn't get rid of it. And I just said, let's stop running. And she really hasn't done much treadmill work unless she gets really frustrated and she needs to kind of, get some aggression out.
Wow. I think the listeners are definitely seeing how much individuality really goes into each person's program, and I thank you for all the detail that you gave there, because it's neat to see what each of these people are going through and how hard they are really working when they're on tour. I think we lose sight of that. We think, professional golfers, they go out, they play golf all day, they hit balls on the range, and that's where it ends, and they live this grandiose life. But you and I both know that seeing these guys and girls going through the mini tours and even just the amateur tournaments and things like that, they're grinding it out, and the best of the best make it to the highest of levels, and they do that because they're putting in the time, they're putting in the effort. And you kind of answered, again, this is an easy interview, David, because you're answering my questions before I even asked them.
Well, let me back up on one, because you asked the one about what the mistakes that a average golfer plays, and I think when I kind of went through there, a lot of it is consistency. Being consistent and not just thinking, hey, I got a tournament on Friday, it's Monday, I'm going to start working out. You really got to do this on a regular basis for, an extended period of time. And that's where, I can look back to a Stacy, when she kind of came to me, or really in 2009, she didn't win her tournament. And we just kind of plugged away at over the time, and she started getting closer and closer and closer and closer, and everything was, improving with her physically and going through a lot of that. And then she won craft, and then it's been sky's the limit. But there's been a progression for her over the course of the last 4 years that the more consistent that you can be with your training program, the better it's going to be for you, not just for golf, but and for life in general. And I had that from a 42-year-old guy coming in here. He's like, hey, I want to work on more of my arm speed. And he kind of added the same question. He goes, I know. I need to come in here more than once a week. And I'm like, well, yeah. That's kind of the big thing is, once a week's not going to do it. There's got to be more of a consistency to you.
Absolutely. And, again, the theory behind this whole podcast, the term 18 strong is really what, in my definition or what I'm kind of seeking from the guests and guys like you is, what does it take for these players to finish a round of 18 holes or finish a 4-day tournament, or in Q School, a 6-day tournament? What does it take for them to finish those 18 holes? And usually I ask the guests to give me a story that depicts this, and I think you just gave it to us with Stacy at the British, playing 36 holes and saying, I could, go birdie, and then I could have played another 18 holes. Right. To me, that epitomizes it. And there's so much more than just the strength part. There's the mental part. How would you, in your own words, define the term 18 strong?
I think it's putting it all together, Jeff, for these people is the physical is one part of it. To be able to walk out on the first tee and know that you've done everything that you possibly can off the course before you tee up that first ball to make you as best as you can be on that day. I've always looked at my job, whether it's in golf, whether it was in basketball, whether it was getting guys ready for combine. As soon as that the gun went off, the buzzer went off, the announcement on the first tee, my job was over. There was nothing more that I could really do for them. At that point in time, I've had to prepare them as best that I can to kind of go through and get ready for that tournament, that event at that point in time. And then when they get done, it starts over for me. But when they get into that, I think that's number one. Is do they believe that they're in the best shape possible and that they are better than that person that's standing next to them on the tee, and that goes a long way from a confidence standpoint. And then it's the ability to believe in, people always say that the hardest thing in golf is to not think about what you're supposed to be doing and just play the game. And that's the hardest thing in sport. And that's where people have to prepare themselves that way as well. You can't just go out there and hit balls and think that I got this, I feel this, and I understand what it was, because as soon as you step on that first tee, it's completely different. And it's being able to prepare yourself from what to expect, and to always look at it, say, to not think ahead, to not think about what's going on in front of me. And you want a great story, and I love the story. I've had the opportunity to work with Yvonne Lendl's kids. Yvonne Lendl, who's 11 years number one tennis player in the world for I think it was back in the 80s or whatever, and
sure.
And was one of the greatest players ever. He told this story to a couple baseball players, and was going through this, and he took a golf pencil out and he gave it to the baseball players, and he goes, "I want you to describe that golf pencil to me." They went, it's orange, it's small, it's got lead in it, it's pointy, and that was about it. He took 5 minutes to describe that golf pencil. And he goes, when I got ahead of myself, when I started losing points, when I was playing in a very competitive match, he goes, I did that. I described things back to me to allow myself to get back into the presence. He goes, I'd look at the tennis ball, and he'd start spelling out the words that were on it. He'd look at the fuzz. He'd talk about the imperfections to this, all to himself. And then he would walk himself through and go, I'm bouncing the ball once. I'm bouncing the ball twice. And now I'm throwing it in the air, and now I'm hitting it. And he said that was just enough to get him back into the presence, to feel what's going on and be, kind of like right here, right now, as opposed to thinking, I could birdie this hole, or I'm shooting 35. I could have my best round ever if I par out on the last hole, and all of a sudden you double bogey and you shoot a 6 and you're back to shooting 42s again. And that's where a lot of the players, even the great ones that we deal with, it's that same thing, is they got to stay right in that moment. And I remember, I'll go back to another story with Stacy, and her caddy was telling me about the standpoint. She's a fire. So when she makes a mistake, she's still mad at herself. And he said, we were playing a tournament, and it was the 16th hole, and she hit a bad shot coming in, and she missed a putt. And he goes, we were still in it. We were still one shot back. And she goes, she hit a great drive on 17. I figured, okay, I don't have to talk to her. She's good. And then she pulled her next shot into the bunker, and we made double on the next hole. And I could just see the fire. And he goes, I missed it. I missed the opportunity to kind of get her back into the present moment and forget about everything else. And so even the best ones do that. They kind of get themselves too far ahead, or too far thinking about what was as opposed to what is right now, and losing that. I mean, that's a long story short of it. I mean, it's being physically able to compete at that level, to finish the holes, to be able to think about each hole as an opportunity, and to really have the right stuff in your bag that you can help to complete that task.
Yeah, there's so many pieces that have to come together and come together consistently to be competitive, to get out there and to reach that level, which I'm amazed at how often, people like Stacey Lewis, the Tiger Woods of the world, how often they're able to do that. It's incredible to me. Mm-hmm. All right, David, we're going to get to the last few questions, and I kind of like to call this the rapid fire round, where I'm just going to throw out some quick questions. Some of them are kind of random, and we're just going to wait for you to give us some short and sweet Donatucci wisdom on these.
How short and sweet? That's, I guess, I haven't gotten a short and sweet answer yet.
We're gonna see how quick you can do these. So again, we want to get to know you as a person, aside from all the wonderful things you're doing in the training world. But I want to let the listeners know, and I like to say this about myself too, that you and I, we're human. We're fitness trainers, we're coaches, but we're human as well, and we struggle with things in our own fitness routine and nutrition. What are the one or two things that you tend to struggle with in your nutrition or fitness, and how do you get past those things?
Consistency for me is the biggest one, because I spend more time worrying about planning my students' programs and not do mine own. And it kind of goes back to the same thing, even from a nutrition standpoint. How do I overcome them is really try and fight through it, trying to figure out. I've actually just kind of gone through where I've cheated. I've grabbed players' programs and just done that program and followed their program to kind of work out, to get myself back on track and get things back going again. And I think the hardest thing from my standpoint is, everybody can go someplace to work out, where I'm working out at my work, and that's the hardest thing to kind of overcome. But just trying to block everything else out and fight through it is a real biggest challenge for me.
All right, now we both know that most of the people that come into us, especially the typical golfer, everybody wants more distance. What's the one thing that you found to be most effective in achieving more distance for your players?
Just one?
Just one.
I'm going to probably say abdominal stability. It's probably the biggest one, and more on the vertical, basically standing in golf posture and training to stabilize the abdominal region in posture.
All right. Do you have a favorite piece of equipment or a product or resource that you think that every golfer should have in the fitness realm?
Not one in particular. I've kind of dabbled with some supplement stuff. I'm dabbling with some different types of things. Probably the one thing I guess that we would look at is more from a recovery standpoint. There's this great device out called the Mark Pro, and it works a lot from electrical stimulation from a recovery standpoint to allow people to recover faster.
I haven't seen that yet. I'll have to look that up.
Yeah. I'm going to have it on my website, so in a couple of days, where you can order it through there with a code and get a little discount. So it works out pretty good.
Perfect. We'll definitely link up to all that. Okay, give me an example of a good pre-round breakfast and an ideal on-course snack.
I like, really a good protein. People can tolerate eggs. I would go with some eggs, some sort of fruits to kind of go put in there, and probably a pumpernickel or a whole grain toast or just kind of bread to kind of balance that in there. Actually, from a supplement standpoint or something, I mean, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches are easy. There's this product out that I like called Generation UCAN. That I have a number of the players kind of utilizing while they're playing, and it was devised for people with glycogen storage disease. So it utilizes fat as energy and keeps your blood sugar levels pretty consistent. Nice.
What would you say is the biggest misconception that most people have regarding the term golf fitness?
Misconception that they just stretch. I think that's probably the biggest thing, is that the things that I look out there is that golfers, that's all they do is lay around, somebody else stretches them and don't do too much.
All right, so you work with some of the best, and you work with, I assume, a lot of traditional golfers working at different country clubs and things like that. What would you say is one thing that you've noticed consistently separates the ones that make it from the ones that maybe struggle, or the ones that will never get on the tour?
I'm going to look at probably consistency and belief. The fact that we go through this and there's probably hundreds of golfers that can shoot 70. Very few of them can shoot 65, 66, 62, 63. And I think that's where, again, it's from a planning preparation standpoint. It's if you're not used to shooting that low, you don't know what it's like. And the simple thing is, we always tell people, is you want to experience that, move up. Move up in the tee box, play a par 3, and shoot 59, and but don't think of it as that. Play the very forward tees, and move yourself up and experience that feeling of shooting a 62, 63. If you keep playing the back tees and you're beating yourself up shooting 73, 74, 75, your mind cannot adjust to what is it like to shoot in the 60s.
All right, I got one last one for you. Let's pretend that you don't work in a gym, you don't work with the best golfers in the world. You've got a 50 to 60 hour a week job in an occupation that is completely unrelated to fitness, but you still want to have the best possible game that you can have. What would your workout and practice routine, just a general overview, what would that look like in a week?
I am working, you said?
You are working, just like most of our listeners.
I think it would be, I'm going to look at my own lifestyle. I have 3 kids, all under the age of 10, so there's a big challenge with kind of getting them off to school. As you know, I think it would have to be something, the standpoint where lunchtime is my workout time, and then after work is my 30 to 45 minutes of golf practice time, and it's going to be a good 4 to 5 days per week of workouts where I can get in a good 45 minutes of a good training program, and then it's going to be again the same thing in the evenings of 3 to 4 days per week of golf work, and then you throw in a Saturday and a Sunday of some sort of playing. The benefit for me is, I think with most people out there, if they have a child or one or two, one of those ones are going to play with them, so they can at least go 9 holes and take some of the challenges of the home off that. So, kind of getting your kids involved in the game, whether it's just riding around in the cart or kind of being around the range and, messing around in the putting course, and while you can be there and get in a decent practice, or getting them involved with the professional that's there in some sort of an activity pattern, I think is very beneficial, and it really helps the home life become a whole lot better. And then, depending upon the age, 2 or 3 years down the road, now you're actually, you have a playing partner.
Yeah, I'm just kind of getting into that phase myself with my oldest son, 6 years old. We'll go out and just chip balls in the front yard. But it's neat to see him wanting to start playing a little bit and, wanting to go out to the driving range. And so, yeah, that's a great way to balance it out for guys like you and I who are actually working in the gym and not necessarily working out all the time like most people think we do when we're working in the gym there.
Yep.
All right. Is there one last piece of advice and maybe one last action step that you would give to the listeners that they could take with them today?
I think just get started if they're not, and also look at organizing their routines to benefit themselves. As I kind of mentioned earlier, it's a lot of times people just kind of go in there and they're thinking of what to do when they walk in, and they end up doing the same thing over and over and over again. So to kind of almost look up some different types of things, and there needs to be a progression. Starting off on standing on the Bosu ball upside down, swinging a golf club is not the good first day exercise, nor is it, I think, it's a good 100th day exercise. But that's a whole different story for a longer conversation. But I think it's more of working on stable positions and trying to get them again, get a nice plan, get a nice progression, have an understanding of what they need to kind of go through some things. And it's not just, oh, hey, my hamstrings need to be stretched to help my low back. There's actually a sequence that you need to look at with all of the exercises, with all the activities, and is it right for you as the listener to be involved in that type of exercise, whatever it might be. There's a purpose and there's a plan for everything that's out there, and finding something that's really right for you, and to be able to organize that and to kind of go through a lot of the things and figure out what's the best way of doing that.
And David, where can our listeners find you and find out what's going on with the Florida Institute of Performance and everything that you have going on, and hopefully the new, bigger facility?
Yeah, the Florida Institute of Performance.com. It's all connected. It's Florida, Florida, Institute of Performance, kind of all spelled out that way, all connected. .com is the website. Has a list of some things on there. We're trying to continue to as you know, it's just a challenge trying to update that and keep that on ongoing on a regular basis. We've been putting some blog information out there, just kind of started a lot of that. We'll probably have a lot of things going on again with the new site. I'm trying to create a few different types of things, a training app and a few other types of things for the players, for different people out there, and going through some things. And and people come to Florida, they can contact me through that site as well, through the Florida Institute of Performance site, and they're in the area, they want to come in and check some things out, they're more than welcome to stop by and kind of go through some things. So I'm looking for some hopefully some great things in the future here, and create some nice programs, some nice golf training, performance type camps for all kinds of individuals.
Fantastic. And we'll have everything linked up as far as the website and all that stuff, where you guys can get in touch with David and hopefully visit the facility down there. And one of these days I'll have to get down there and check out the place myself.
Yeah, that'd be good. I mean, it's kind of funny. I mean, everything that's kind of going on, people always think, oh, it must be, like a pretty pristine facility and going through all that. I mean, I can tell you right now, I'm in an 800 square foot of old racquetball court room in the back of PGA National, which again has worked out great for me. But if you I tell people, hey, come on down and visit. I'm like, okay, well, wait till August, please, because it's as the first appearances is always the biggest thing. But it's like people are coming. I'm thankful people are coming in to see me and not looking at the facility and going, holy cow, you work out here.
Absolutely. Well, David, I can't thank you enough for your time tonight. I know we had a few issues that got us on the line a little bit later, so I apologize for keeping you a little bit longer. But
that's all right.
Tons of great information. 18 strong listeners. I want to thank David for coming on, and thank you guys for being here. So we'll catch up with you guys next time. Thanks, David.
Thanks, Jeff.
I hope you guys got a ton out of that interview with David Donatucci. Again, one of the guys that has really had such a successful career working in the golf fitness industry, working with successful athletes, from the time he started in the game. And, the biggest takeaways that I get out of that whole interview are that, first of all, you've got to have a plan. If you don't have a plan of attack, you're really just kind of floating, and it's going to be very hard to get your game better and make the improvements that you want to in your game. And you got to be consistent. Consistency is the key, and David mentioned that many times, that's what he sees the best of the best doing, and that's what kind of differentiates them from the ones that make it to the ones that are winning championships time and again, which a lot of his clients are doing, as you can tell. So nobody's workouts look the same. Everybody's got some individualities that they need to address in their workouts. So again, you have a plan of attack and you're consistent with your workouts, you're going to see those improvements and it's going to make a big difference. So once again, thank you guys. You can check all the notes and links from this episode on the show notes page on our website, 18strong.com. Don't forget to look us up on Facebook at facebook.com/18strong. Again, all these links will be on the show notes page. And let us know who you want us to have on the show, who we can reach out to get some more information and share what they're doing, and what questions you want us to ask. We want to make sure that, again, we're keeping our finger on the pulse of what you want as the listener and how we can make your game better, make your workouts better. So again, throw out the hashtag 18strong, and if you wouldn't mind leaving us a review on iTunes, we would be very appreciative, sharing it with your friends. Thank you guys so much for listening, and don't forget, you got to train hard, practice smart, and you'll play better golf. All the best.
Thanks for listening to the 18 Strong podcast at www.18strong.com. And remember, train hard, practice smart, and play better golf.